Hey guys, my name is Adam, and I'm here for another Shogun 2 Total War multiplayer battle replay. This is a 2v2 on the map Kansai Wood. I am playing with my friend Sparky Boomman, or Commandant Video, he's also known as that, so if I refer to him as Commandant, then you know why. Our opponents are Magnazerd and Airborne, and I'm sorry if I butchered the first name. I have no idea how you're supposed to say that, but I just assumed. If you look on the map in the center here, though, you will notice that there is a point of advantage, which is right in the middle, where there is a forest and also a hill. So if we pause the game, so we can look at builds and whatnot, and also look at the map, you will notice that there are this forest area, there's an elevation advantage, so whoever takes control of this middle of the map area is going to probably be the winner. Because if this guy has to charge into this forest to face me, he's going to face a lot of penalties, his bows are going to become worthless, and I can start just sitting in there until the game ends. There's really nothing that stops me, except the key buildings over here, which is the archery dojo, which will increase the reload rate of all my missile units, or we could look all the way on the other side, and there's a farmhouse, which will increase the stamina and movement speed of all units. So both of these key buildings on the map are very, very useful. However, the main advantage is going to be right here in the middle, where there's that elevation and forest advantage. Taking a look at my build, I have 3 sets of Yari Cavalry with varying upgrades, but for the most part, I'm trying to make them more sustainable with melee defense, melee attack, and morale. I want to keep them in the fight as long as possible. Other people like to put a lot of their upgrades into charge bonus, which is not a bad idea. In fact, my ally over here, Commandant, actually did that, and he likes doing that with his cavalry. But I personally like to keep my cav in the fight for a while, and if you put all of your upgrades into charge bonus, that means you're going to need to charge in and then run out. Otherwise, your cavalry will lose over time. Just food for thought. Either way, you can get success. It just depends on your playstyle. That's really all it comes down to. Alright, then I have 2 sets of Bow Warrior Monks with 4 chevrons apiece. I put my upgrades into reload skill and accuracy. Also, this unit has more ammunition, so I can continue raining down arrows for a little while longer with this one Bow Warrior Monk. Then I have 2 sets of Yari Eshigaru with 4 chevrons apiece. Trying to make them more sustainable. Melee defense is extremely important. Morale is extremely important. I don't want these guys to rout. That is essentially what I'm going for here. And also their spear wall is extremely powerful once you upgrade that melee defense, so they can hold their own. They really can. Also, I have 2 sets of Katana Samurai with varying upgrades, but again, I'm trying to make them a little bit more sustainable. Melee attack, morale, melee defense, all of that good stuff that will keep them in the fight for as long as possible, so they will probably win, because when your unit has more melee attack and melee defense, they are going to win over time. And although I didn't put any upgrades into charge bonus on my units, that doesn't really mean much. They may start off losing, but over time, they're going to win. It's all up to your playstyle, though. If you can actually use your cavalry to get around your opponent and do rear charges, then probably charge bonus is for you. That way, you don't need to worry about sustainability, because you can route them with your cavalry. A bunch of different ways to play Shogun 2, but those are just some of the basics. Meanwhile, I have my general in the very back, which is Itachi Uchiha with the amazing helmet. There you go. And he is also a leadership general, so I will be using stand and fight. Alright. My ally over here, Sparky Boomman, has 3 sets of cavalry himself. He has 2 sets of Yari cavalry with 5 chevrons apiece, which is pretty good. He put his upgrades into charge bonus, which is absolutely fine. He also put it into melee attack. Now, the only depressing thing about this one is that there's going to be no melee defense. Starting out, the Yari cavalry only have 1 melee defense, so they cannot sustain. Again, they're meant to just charge in and do their damage, which he certainly can do. I mean, his charge bonus is 35, his melee attack is 11 on each of these, he has better morale, so yeah, he could definitely do a lot of damage with this cavalry. He also has a set of Naginata Warrior Monk Cavalry with 2 chevrons, and he put the upgrades into morale. I don't know if that's really the best choice, just because Naginata Warrior Monk Cavalry already have really good morale. I think it starts as 16 or something like that, but that is what he decided to go for. Then he has 3 sets of Naginata Samurai. You'll notice he has no skirmish components, so these guys are going to be meant to take all the enemy arrows, and then he can charge in. It's a good plan. Naginata Samurai are very good at absorbing arrows because their armor is like 9 starting out, which is really, really good. Definitely a strong recommendation by me with this. Then he has 3 sets of Katana Samurai with varying upgrades, but he's trying to make them more sustainable just like I am, and I believe he even has a retainer that's increasing his unit's armor, so it's kind of ridiculous how much damage these guys can take. It's really good. Also, he has his general back here, which is something extremely racist, like Tong Wong, Dong Chong, Fong Quan, something like that, but he's sitting here in his silver armor. Then he has a set of Katana Cavalry in the very back, which will do very well against enemy melee infantry, such as Katana Samurai, Nodachi. They will not do well against any form of Yari unit. They're not too great against cavalry, but if you can use your Yari cavalry to charge in and then charge your Katana cavalry, that's actually a really good idea. The thing that Katana cavalry are really bad at is accepting a charge, because they will die very quickly and they will be unable to defeat a standard Yari cavalry if the Yari cavalry gets the charge, so it's always something to keep in mind. Taking a look at my opponent, which is Magnazerd, he has 5 sets of Katana Samurai up front, 3 sets of Bow Ashigaru behind them. He has 2 sets of Yari Samurai, 1 on each flank, 2 sets of Nodachi, 1 on each flank, and then he has a Yari Cavalry and a Light Cavalry. Also, his general is sitting right at the back of his army, and it is Slyta? I guess I'm not too certain, but as you can tell, he's wearing red armor, it looks like, red and black, which is very nice colors, definitely looks good. His bow looks very nice, so I would assume that he is a ranged general. I'm not too certain on that, though. Taking a look at Commandant's opponent, which is Airborne, he has 3 sets of Bow Samurai, which is much better than the 3 Bow Ashigaru that my opponent has. These guys can hold out in a fight a lot longer. They're pretty good in melee, much better than Bow Ashigaru at least, which are essentially just archers, well, peasants with bows, I guess is what you would call them. Behind the Bow Samurai, he has 5 sets of melee infantry here, at least sword infantry. He has 4 Katana Samurai, and no, actually 5 sets of Katana Samurai. One of them has an upgrade. All of the other units here are pretty much plain. They don't have any upgrades, but this one does, and he actually hasn't learned a thing on it, so I guess he just didn't want to spend the money on the upgrade. I'm not too certain, but it does have 1 chevron. That does not mean it is better in any way, shape, or form. It is just a veteran. It's been on the field before, but it's learned absolutely nothing. Then he has 3 sets of spear units. 2 of them are Yari Samurai with no upgrades, and then he has a Bulletproof Samurai with 4 chevrons. Sadly for my opponent, or rather Commandant's opponent, he did not bring any form of matchlock, so these guys are going to be pretty much worthless. Now, I will grant that they are better than a standard Yari Samurai, but even still, I think these guys are a novelty unit and should really only be used against matchlock. But, hey, that's just me. They are pretty nice looking, though. They have kind of neat spears. I like it, nonetheless. Alright, then he has 2 sets of light cavalry with no upgrades, and then his general is right over here, which is Lieutenant Lipton, wearing his red and white armor. So, not too bad. Let's get this game started, though, and you'll notice that instantly me and Commandant devised this plan where we would rush our cavalry forward and take control of the elevated position, because we were pretty much confident that our cavalry would be better by miles than anything our opponents had. And we were pretty much right, because the majority of cavalry that our opponents have are unupgraded, and they will not be able to hold out against heavily upgraded Yari cavalry and an upgraded Naginata Warrior Monk cavalry. There's no way they can handle this kind of cav presence, so we're just going to run in here and we'll sit, because there's really nothing to stop us from doing so. Meanwhile, I'm going to be running up with the rest of my army, and so is Sparky, as you can tell. If we look at our opponents, they are actually just going to be marching forward. So there's a couple advantages to just marching, and that would be that you're not tiring your men out as much. However, in this case, you definitely want to be running, because you need to get in this forest and you need to take an advantageous position before your opponent gets there. So I don't really know why they're not running. I'm running my ass off. As you can tell, all my guys are just sprinting over in this direction. I want to get into this forest, and then I can worry about walking. After that, it really doesn't matter, but here he's charging his light cavalry and Yari cavalry forward. However, this was a bad choice. I can only imagine that he was trying to get to my bows or something like that. Unfortunately for him, though, he is being caught, and light cavalry will rout very quickly. He is doing a rear charge with the Yari cavalry, but I have so much cav to support. I'm only using 2 of them. I have 1 in reserve still, so that's pretty good. And there goes the light cavalry pretty much instantly. It isn't too difficult to stop a cav charge like this. He really should have kept his cav in reserve, although now he is charging in this Yari Samurai. He's activated their movement ability, which will cause them to charge into battle a lot quicker, but it's a little too late. His Yari Cavalry won't rout, and mine almost does, but it's not actually dead. There's still 15 guys left in the unit, which isn't a ton, but it's enough to actually live through. Meanwhile, I'm just going to charge my cavalry right through Commandant's lines and make sure that they are safe. And he's also continuing the charge of this Yari Cavalry right into a spear line. Not a good choice by my opponent, and I believe they are going to rout. At least they're going to come really close. Now, in doing this, he actually did disturb my line quite a bit, but I now have my archers firing, and that's going to be a huge problem for him. He charged this Yari Samurai right into my Yari Eshigaru. However, my Yari Eshigaru were in Spear Wall. They were prepared for the charge. They are upgraded, which is something that the Yari Samurai are not, which is definitely something to keep in mind. So we're going to have a good old-fashioned fight here. I believe he's actually attacking both at the same time as well, which is not a great choice. It can work, but now he's going to move in with his unupgraded Katana Samurai, which is not really doing that well for him. Meanwhile, I'm showering this one with arrows, and it's down to 50 out of 80. So he took a lot of casualties just on the charge in, and now he's running into a spear wall that was already fighting. Keep in mind that Yari Eshigaru are good when upgraded, but they're not great. I'm already having a little bit of a morale shock going on here from so much Katana Samurai charging into me. I put my general in stand and fight, and he's actually just getting on his stool, and he's going to sit down and take a little nap. You know, he's relaxing. But he's ready for this fight. He wants this to go in our favor, and we are essentially fighting in the forest now at this point. As you can tell, his Katana Samurai are fighting to the best of their ability, but that's really not going to work at the end of the day. Over here, there's a huge fight that has ensued. As you can tell, Sparky is charging his cavalry into his opponent's rear, which is doing a great job. He also put his general in stand and fight because he has a leadership general. There is fighting pretty much across every flank at this point, and we're causing a lot of damage. Here is the opponent's general, Airborne's general right there, and he is just trying to pop rally, I think. Yeah, he popped rally. And that actually hit pretty much like every unit in the fight except over here, but there's tons of rear charges going on, mainly because Airborne's cavalry was not good. He only had 2 light cavalry, which is nowhere near enough. He is using fire arrows over here, which is a decent idea. However, it's very difficult to get a clear line of sight. It's always something to keep in mind. But this general right here is trying to get around, and he's actually going to charge right into Sparky's general, which is dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's general on general combat right now, and Sparky's general could go down at any moment, but the same could be said for Airborne. It really is rolling the dice on this one. But in comes Sparky Boom Man's Katana Samurai, heavily upgraded. They are ready to cut down Lieutenant Lipton. And that's all that really takes. But over on my side, I have won the fight. I routed the majority of his units that I was fighting with. It wasn't too hard just because his units were unupgraded. And at this point, I believe that Commandant General ended up dying. But at the same time, it's a Katana Samurai going against his general, and also just an unupgraded Katana Samurai is trying to fight it off as well. It's not going to work. Quite frankly, the upgrades are going to win the day for him here. Meanwhile, I'm going to be charging in here very soon with all of my cavalry. I have my cavalry over here doing cleanup. The rest of my army is moving in. Lots of damage going on. I'm shooting arrows into this big blob, and I'm causing a lot of damage at the end of the day. It's kind of difficult for me to not hit the Katana Samurai of Sparky, but yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not causing that much damage, and also, he's very close to losing his army at this point, so I may as well help. And now I'm going to charge in with all of my cavalry. I'm going to do so much damage, just so much damage. And this is really all I needed to do, because essentially, Airborne's men were already, you know, kind of shaking. They didn't want to fight anymore, so a rear charge by cavalry was going to end them, and it did. So the only units left on the field are these couple units of Bow Samurai, which is not bad at all. But there's no way they can actually fight off this many units. Also, I should have been retargeting my bows, but I had some micro mistakes this game, certainly, but it's all good. In comes the cavalry, and we're going to charge down all the Bow Samurai, make them all rout, or die, either way. Lots of damage. Charging cavalry, you know, shoving them all around. Here's that Naginata Warrior Monk Cav. Just tons of damage all day, every day. That's it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. That was definitely a fun one, but it was a costly victory. It was definitely dangerous, and there were a lot of points where we could have lost. I think that if Commandant General had died a lot sooner, that would have definitely been different. Because the stand and fight helped his men out a lot, kept their morale high, and it was just an overall good game. So let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section below, and I will see you in future videos.